Hello everyone, this is Colleen Lema, angelic astrologer and spiritual consultant from angelmessenger.net, and I'm here doing a soul reflections video for you today. I wanted to check in with everyone because the energies are becoming more and more intense as we move forward on our evolutionary journey. And right now it is towards the end of March, and we're coming up to a new moon in Aries on March 30th. And I feel that this new moon on March 30th it's going to catapult us into the month of April, which I've been waiting for personally for a long time, because April is full of a lot of astrological and universal energies that are going to be very intense, but I feel intense in a good way. It's going to bring a lot of changes. And with all of these changes that it's going to bring, with the evolution that it's going to bring, it may, throw some of us off center a little bit and bring some of us some surprises. And so it's good to kind of have a heads up, so to speak, excuse me, on what these energies are going to be all about and what it's going to bring to us. And again, that's why I wanted to make this video, just so that you're aware of what it's all about, and can kind of have a knowingness of what to expect. So let's start with the fact that we are going to have this new moon on March 30th. And the reason why I feel that this particular new moon is important is because we just had the vernal equinox very recently. In other words, we just had the sun moving into the sign of Aries, and the Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and so it's about new beginnings. And with this new moon that we have coming up on March 30th, it's going to be a new moon in Aries. So in other words, both the sun and the moon are going to come together in Aries, that first sign of the zodiac, to propel us on this new beginning. Up until that point, if we kind of go back in time, January, February, it was a new year, and we're in a new Chinese year, the year of the horse, and we've been ready for a lot of things to move forward and progress, our goals, our ambitions, our career paths, our relationships, what we're here to do on the planet. And it's been kind of, the first couple of months a little slow moving, still doing, a lot of emotional healing and releasing and transforming within ourselves. And not that that's going to stop. However, as we moved into the second half of March with that sun, the sun moving into Aries, and now this new moon coming up in the sign of Aries, I believe this is kind of a real turning point. And you're going to see things start to speed up even more. You're going to start to see that energies and events and situations in our life will start to fall into place. May not fall into place the way that you perceive, and again, that's not a negative thing, but we have a big Cardinal Cross that's forming here through the month of April. And what that means is the Cardinal Cross is an astrological configuration that's made up of 4 planets. And these 4 planets that are kind of joining together, so to speak, and connecting with one another, it's going to be Mars, which is the planet of action, and Jupiter, which is the planet of expansion and growth. Uranus, which is about high vibrational energies and changes, and it's about expecting the unexpected. And then we have Pluto. And Pluto is called the Great Transformer, and he brings a lot of transformation and change in a very large way, in a very heavy-duty way to the planet. And you may have heard astrologers talking about the Pluto-Uranus squares that have been happening for a couple of years now, and yet for another little while we still have these configurations of Pluto and Uranus squaring each other, which is the catalyst for bringing change on this planet. It is what is kind of breaking down old ways, old belief systems. It's breaking down the old society, so to speak, and bringing in new energies, higher evolutionary energies, new way of looking at things, a better way to live life. So we have to kind of have a death before we have a rebirth, and that's what the Pluto-Uranus squares are all about. With adding Jupiter and Mars to the mix in April, it's going to be very powerful. So I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. But going back to this new moon on March 30th in Aries, it is joining with the planet Uranus, one of those planets that is going to be making up this big, what's called a grand square or a cardinal cross in April. And with that new moon in Aries conjoining with Uranus, and already in this configuration with Pluto and Jupiter, and Mars has yet to catch up, but Jupiter and Pluto and Uranus are already forming what's called a T-square. So that new moon is kind of setting off that T-square in a big way. So it's catapulting us into this Aries energy, this new beginning, new way of seeing things, new way of doing things, new directions or redirections. And again, because it's with Uranus, you always want to kind of expect the unexpected. And again, which is not necessarily negative. This is going to bring surprises, perhaps. But I feel that in the long run, this is going to bring good surprises. This is going to bring good redirections. This is going to bring us closer to a place that we as a humanity and as a planet need to be, to bring things back into alignment, to bring things back into a place of peace. It's still going to be, you know, a journey. It's still going to be a road ahead of us. It's nothing that's going to happen overnight, but we've been seeing the changes happening and occurring all over the planet already. And if you're aware and watching, you know, with corporations and governments, we're seeing changes start to take place, which is what we want. On a smaller level, or it doesn't mean that it's less significant, but these changes are also within us too. I mean, we're going through an evolutionary journey. Our vibrations are being heightened. We're moving from what's called third dimensional energies, which is how we've been used to operating on this planet, to a higher vibration of energy, or fifth dimensional energies, which is aligning us more with our true selves, our spiritual selves. And with those changes energetically happening within us, you may be yourself on a personal level feeling things physically happening with your body. You might be feeling things emotionally and mentally as you're releasing old thought processes or ways of thinking, as you're releasing old emotions and old feelings. You know, you're going through a lot of readjustments on those levels. And also within your life, obviously, when you're going through this shift internally, that's, you know, again, transforming you physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, it's going to affect the circumstances and situations and relationships around you in your life as well. Everybody's shifting, and, you know, we're trying to shift together, you know, and some people's energies are shifting one way and others are shifting another, and that's why certain circumstances and certain relationships are undergoing a lot of transition right now. So I want to, you know, before we look at some of the energies of April and talk a little bit more detailed about that, I want to point out from a numerological perspective that April, as we're moving into April, is a numerological 11 vibration, and that's a master number. And so I have to digress for just a minute and just talk about the fact that we're in a 7 universal year, 2014. If we add 2 plus 0 plus 1 plus 4, we get the number 7. The number 7, as we talked about before, is a very spiritual number. It can be an emotional number. It's a number of going within and self-reflecting and connecting with your higher soul self, and about finding out who you are on a spiritual level. I feel the number 7 because all the numbers in numerology relate to the planetary or astrological sign energy in a lot of ways. I feel the number 7 has a very Scorpio kind of feel to it. You know, the self-reflection, the pulling into yourself, the meditation. And Scorpio is one of those signs that if you aspire to reach the highest level of Scorpio, you are reaching the level of the phoenix energy, the energy of the phoenix, which gets burned up, by the sun and rises again from its ashes, which is about transformation, So this whole year, 2014, it's about transformation, transformation of you, transformation of humanity, transformation of the world. And again, kind of looking at then April being a master number month, the number 11, to me has a very Neptunian feel. It vibrates with the planet Neptune, which is a very spiritual planet. It's a planet that really connects us to the highest of spiritual energies, the highest of spiritual realms. And putting that energy together with that number 7, I feel that April, it's going to be largely spiritually transformative. It's going to be a time with a lot of the things that are going to take place with this Cardinal Cross or Grand Square energy that's going on, that we're going to undergo a huge spiritual transformation, a huge leap on our evolutionary journey as we move forward as spiritual beings and as we raise our vibration even more through all these changes that we're going through, that we're feeling, that we're undergoing. So now to look at, there's a lot of astrology going on, and I'm just going to try to hit the highlights and tell you, what this all means. But the first 3 days, right after that new moon in Aries on March 30th, the first 3 days of April, there's a lot of astrological energy that's kind of bringing a lot of transformation and change. So right off the bat, right after that new moon, as we head into this new energy of new beginnings, new paths, new opportunities, you're going to start to see already the first few days of the month of April having a lot of changes of energy. And then we go into the next big time period. Now, keep in mind that all throughout the month of April, there's lots of things going on, and I'm not mentioning all of them. A lot of shifts of planetary energies, planets going into different signs, and other what we call transits of the planets as they dance together out there in the universe. But the next big time period is the time as we're approaching the full moon lunar eclipse, which is on April 15th. But I want to even go back to April 14th, because on April 14th, there's a lot of things astrologically going on, but the biggest thing going on that day is that the planet Pluto, which is part of that Cardinal Cross, that planet that's about big, big changes and transformation, it is going to stop and go into retrograde motion. And whenever a planet, and we've experienced this like with Mercury retrograde, whenever a planet slows down to go into a retrograde phase, or even when it stops to go back into a direct phase, direct is moving forward, which is the way the planet normally moves. Retrograde is when it appears to be moving backwards. Whenever it's at that kind of standstill point as it's getting ready to move either retrograde or direct, it feels more powerful. The energy of that planet or the characteristics of that planet come to the forefront. And Pluto can be about power and control issues. It's about big business, big society. It's about the forces out there on the planet that are or have been in control and want to stay in control, hence the power and control issues. It's about your shadow sides. Pluto can be about the darkness on the planet, for lack of a better way of saying it, and again, the shadow sides of people or the planet. And with Pluto stopping to go into retrograde on April 14th, along with all the other aspects going on that day, there might be, even a day or two leading up to that day, a lot of energy focused on those types of things that we talked about Pluto being associated with. So there's a lot of power issues, a lot of transformation issues that are kind of welling up. And then boom, the next day, April 15th, we have that full moon lunar eclipse at 25 degrees of Libra. And when we have a lunar eclipse or a solar eclipse, the energies are much more heightened. You know, when we have a full moon, we often find a lot of interesting things, crazy things maybe going on with that full moon as it wells up. Well, when we have a full moon lunar eclipse, it's even more powerful. So we have two eclipses this month. We have this full moon lunar eclipse, again on April 15th, and later in the month, and we'll get to that, we have a new moon solar eclipse. So that's also heightening the energies of transformation and redirection and things happening on a lot of different levels on the planet, again, and within yourselves, a lot of changes. Then on April 19th, we have the sun moving from Aries into the sign of Taurus. Now, that may not be so significant in and of itself by itself, but the very next day after the sun moves into Taurus starts about a 3 or 4 day time period of a lot of heavy duty, what we call transits, again in astrology. A lot of the planets that are forming this Cardinal Cross are starting to come together on the 20th, on the 21st, on the 22nd, and on the 23rd. Those 4 days, we have Jupiter, Uranus, Pluto, and don't forget Mars. Mars is the activator. Mars is the faster moving planet, so it activates things as it moves along through the zodiac. All these planets are kind of squaring and opposing and you know, coming together with one another. So that time period, again, you're going to feel this, you know, not just those days, but you're feeling this more and more as it builds up throughout the month of April. You're feeling this already now. Even as we're still here at the end of March, you're feeling these energies come closer together and becoming more and more intense and bringing more and more changes on the planet. So this is just when it comes to a head. And then the last, well, not the last couple days of the month, but close, we have April 28th and 29th, depending on what part of the world you're in, is when we have that new moon solar eclipse. Now remember, new moons, new beginnings. You know, going back to full moons is usually about endings and releasing and letting go. So as we have that full moon lunar eclipse on April 15th, there's going to be like endings of chapters on the planet, so to speak, endings of old energies, old systems. You know, I'm talking on a big scale when it comes to, again, government and big business and the old paradigm, the old energies that have been operating this planet for so long. We're talking about endings coming here with that full moon lunar eclipse, and then again April 20th through the 23rd when that Grand Cross, Cardinal Cross happens. Then we move again April 28th, 29th, we have the new moon solar eclipse, powerful new moon, powerful new energies, powerful new directions for all of us and for the planet. So it's going to be quite a month. Like I said, I'm very excited about it. Again, it's important to stay grounded, to stay meditate, stay centered within yourself, because some of these changes, you know, it's going to be a rocking and rolling kind of time, and you don't want to be thrown off your center. You know, we want to move forward in the most positive way. So keep your intentions clear and positive. Keep your visualizations for what you desire to create in your life on a positive level. This is why it's so important to not allow yourself to go into fear, not allow yourself to go into anxiety, not allow yourself to go into any negatives whatsoever, because we're creating more and more powerfully, and we're creating our own reality faster and faster as these energies become intense and our own vibration increases. So you are the master of your own destiny. You have a lot of magical ability within you. You are co-creators with God's source energy. So keep that in mind. Stay positive, stay in love, stay in light, be at peace. And I send you much love and light and many, many angel blessings. Namaste.